Hi and welcome to Inbound Explain. In today's video, we're going to talk all about HubSpot forms, specifically how to create a form, the different types of forms that are available, and how you can check on the results. So let's go ahead and get started. In order to create a form inside of HubSpot, the first thing you want to do is go over to Marketing and then go over to Lead Capture and click on Forms. From here, you can go ahead and go to the right-hand side and click on Create Form. And then from here, you'll see all the different options you have of the forms that you can create. In today's video, we're going to talk mostly about how to create an embedded form. However, if you want to learn more about how you can create a pop-up form, you can go ahead and check out our video that we've already created about how you can create a pop-up form. But for now, in this video, we'll go ahead and stick with the embedded form. Just know that you do also have the option to create a standalone page form. So this is a form that would exist in its own page and it would be by itself. And it's only accessible through a link. You also have pop-up forms, which we've already talked about on this channel. And then you have the drop-down banner form. So this is kind of similar to a pop-up form, but it's just going to come down from the top. But let's go ahead and talk about probably the most used form that you'll be using and creating within HubSpot, which is the embedded form. So let's go ahead and press next. From here, you have a few different options. HubSpot has a lot of different templates that you can use for different forms. So if it's your first time creating a form in HubSpot, I definitely recommend you going ahead and looking at the different templates that they have and experimenting with those. But for the sake of this video, we'll go ahead and start with a blank template just so you can see all of the different options that you have available to you. So let's go ahead and press start. So from here, you're going to have a pretty blank slate and it's kind of up to you to create what you want to see on your form. So let's go ahead and first actually just start up at the top and we'll start with the name. This will just help you stay a bit more organized if you go ahead and name it from the start. So let's go ahead and name this form example inbound explained form. Awesome. And all right, so let's decide what we want our form to be about. In order to even get started in creating a form, you first have to think, okay, what type of information are we trying to get from our users? In this example, let's go ahead and create a form that somebody would fill out when they want to download an ebook. That's a pretty common use case in inbound marketing, and it's a pretty popular form that you'll be creating if you're doing inbound marketing. With that in mind, let's go ahead and start adding in the different properties. Automatically, HubSpot will give you the email property, and if you already have your privacy policy set up, it'll put in the privacy policy property. If we're having a form for somebody to download an ebook, there's a few things that we know we definitely want to ask. The first thing would be the first name, and along with the first name, we know we want to add in the last name. As you can see, as I'm dragging and dropping these properties, HubSpot gives you a few different options on where you can place these properties. So you can place it on top, you can place things on the side, or you can place things on the bottom. Let's go ahead and add phone number at the bottom. So let's go ahead and add in company name here. And then we can add in the position too. So let's look for position. All right, and we have job position here, and we're gonna make that one side by side. All right, I think that's a pretty good form so far. Because this is just an ebook download form, we don't wanna ask for too much information. So let's go ahead and edit the properties that we've gone ahead and chosen. So the way that you can edit the properties that you've chosen is you just have to click into it and you're going to get this module here on the side. The first thing we want to do is we want this to be a required field. So that means that we want to make sure that somebody has to fill out this field in order to submit the form. From there, I can go ahead and edit the label. So the label is what people see when they go to fill out the form. In this case, it's pretty clear. But in something like position, maybe position could sound too vague. So I'm going to go ahead and click on position. I'm going to make this a required field. And then right here, I'm just going to type in job position. Now you can see here that what somebody sees when they fill out the form is job position. The text over here that says position here is just the name of the property that we have chosen, and this will not be viewable to the user when they're filling out the form. From there, you can also decide if you want to add in some help text. So this is the text that people would see inside the field before they fill anything out. So for here, we could say, what type of work do you do? So this just helps people to give a bit more context into the information that they should be filling out here in the form. You can also have placeholder text. And again, it's just another way to give people a bit of context when they're filling out your form. If you want to have a default value, so a value that automatically is input into the form before somebody selects anything, you can also do that here. In this case, I would say it's not a great example with a job position, but just to show you what it looks like, it would look like this. So it looks like somebody's already typed it in, but the user could go ahead and erase that if they wanted to, and it would be possible to fill in their own option. Just to show you what this looks like. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make all of this mandatory, all of our fields required. Now, one thing that I'm seeing is that job position, looks like job position is, when I click on the field type, I can see that it's a single line text, and that's pretty vague, right? So it gives a lot of people a lot of different options to write what their job position is, which for a user, okay, could be nice, but on our end, it's not very useful, right? Because then we're gonna have so many different answers and it's gonna be all over the place, and it's gonna be pretty hard when we later on want to segment. For example, if we wanna segment users based off of their job position, if they can write whatever they wanna write, it makes our job of segmenting a little bit harder. So one thing that we can actually do is we can actually create a new contact property that, instead of being a single line text, is a drop-down option. So how do we do that? First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and remove that from our form here. And then I'm going to go over here to create new, and I'm going to create a new property. So I think I want this property for job position to be a drop-down. So I'm going to go ahead and add that here to the side. And now we have to set up a few different things. So we're about to create a new property inside of our HubSpot. So there's a few things that we have to configure. First is the object type. This is going to be a contact property, but you have a few different options here. So you could do company, you could do a contract, event. In our case, we're going to stick with a contact property. If you have business units, you can go ahead and set up your business units. If you don't worry about this section here. This is going to be contact information, but you do have a few different options here if you choose to have it. And now here's going to be our label. So this is going to be the internal label that you have indicating what the property type is going to be. You can also choose to add in a description. So this again is internal. It's just to give you and your team a bit more context into what the property is asking for. In this case, we're going to skip that, but you can go ahead and add it if you want. If you can see, we have this message up here. So HubSpot is smart enough to know that we've already created something similar to this. If this is a real use case scenario, that's great. You can go ahead and find that existing property. In our case, because this is just an example, we're just going to go ahead and continue. So let's go ahead and press next. So now here's where you have all your options to set up your different variables for your dropdown. Here, the label is what the user will see when they are selecting the different options in the dropdown. So let's go ahead and set up a few labels. One job position could be CEO, and we'll go ahead and have the same internal value. We can go ahead and add in an option. Next, we'll do vice president. Then we can have, let's say, director of marketing. Then we can go and we can have, let's have a marketing manager. Let's go have a marketing coordinator. And let's make our last one other. All right, so now we've gone ahead and we've created a few different options that people can fill out in the dropdown. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and keep the internal value the same, but you do have the option to change it. So instead of CEO, we could do C-suite. or something like that. So you do have the option to have a different internal value. The internal value is what you internally call the property. The label is what the user sees when they're filling out the form. So let's go ahead and click on create. So we have our new job position drop down. In this case, we want to go ahead and change the label that people see. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a required field, and then I'm just going to get rid of drop down here because again, this is the position, or this is the label that people will see when they're filling out the form. So now it looks pretty good. So we have the first name, the last name, the email, the phone number, the company name, and now they have a drop down, and we can see all of the labels that we have already created. Looks pretty good to me. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and edit our privacy policy here. So this is pretty long. So I think what we can go ahead and do is edit our text a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. We want this to be a bit simpler. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this as well. So as you can see, we can go ahead and edit the text. And what I do want to do is we can actually add in links in this area. So what I want to do to make the form look a little bit more cleaned up, look a little bit better, is I can actually go ahead and add in the privacy policy link here in this piece of text. I can go ahead and add in a link to the privacy policy, and you can go ahead and do that by inserting any link that you have here. So I don't have the link on hand, so I'm just going to type in google.com. The good thing is that since this is just a test form, this is not something that's going to get published, so we don't have to worry about it in this case. But of course, in a real use case scenario, you want to make sure that you're linking your privacy policy. And of course, with the privacy policy, we want to make sure that this is a required field. So this one's very important to make sure that it's a required field. So now we have our form and it's looking pretty good. The next thing that we want to talk about are the progressive fields. Progressive fields allow us to get more information about users using the same form. In this case, we have a form dedicated for an ebook, but the really good thing about HubSpot is that it's smart enough to recognize emails that already exist within its CRM. So for example, if you have a user who has downloaded an ebook on your website before, and now they're going to fill out this new form to download a new ebook, HubSpot is actually able to recognize their email. And because of that, it's able to ask new questions using the progressive fields. So what you're able to do is you're actually able to drag in new properties that can then populate to get more information from your users once they filled out more than one form on your website. So let's go ahead and do an example of this. In this case, it's not really a totally applicable property form, but let's go ahead and ask for the language. Here we go. One thing that you could do is you can ask users what language they prefer. That's just an example here. It's just to show you what the progressive fields look like. Obviously, in a real use case, you want to use a property that makes the most sense with the form that you have created. But since this is our test account, we're a bit limited in the properties that we already have set up. But it's just a good tool to have. You can make this a required field if you want to, and you have all the same options that you have with your with any of the properties that you select up here. You can also add in more than one progressive field question. So you can also add in like street address or city, for example. Again, these really aren't totally relevant to the form that we've created up here. It's just to show you that you do have the options. Okay, so once you've gone ahead and you've created a form that you're happy with, you've gone ahead and created any new properties that need to be created, you've added in your progressive fields, then we can start working on the follow-up email. So the first thing that you can do is you can create a follow-up email. If you choose to do this, you can create the email right in here. You can choose the user that it's going to be sent from, the name, the subject line. So we could say something like, "Thank you for downloading our ebook." And you can have the message here saying, "Thank you," and whatever else that you want to say. And you can go ahead and save that. In this follow-up email, you are a bit limited. So I also recommend instead of doing a follow-up email natively from inside the form, you can also instead just create a workflow, and you can have the trigger of the workflow be the form completion. And after the form is completed, you can actually just have a marketing email be sent out. You're gonna have way more options with the follow-up email, and it's just gonna look a lot nicer. So you do have that option as well, but if you don't want to do a workflow, then you can just do the follow-up form inside of here. All right, the next option that you have is you can go ahead and look at your options here. So you have a few different options related to the form after somebody completes the form. First, you can choose what happens after somebody presses submit on your form. You have two main options. You can either display an inline thank you message. So this means that in the area where your form was taking space, you can just display a short message in that same area so that it would replace where you see the form after the form is submitted. And you can have a custom message here. In this case, you have thank you for submitting the form. Or you also have the option of redirecting to another page. So you can decide if you want to direct somebody into another page after they've filled out the form. So this is a really good way to redirect people to keep exploring your website after they've filled out the form. So I would recommend to create a thank you page and then to redirect to another page after somebody has filled out the form. You can also send a submission email notification to the contact's owner. So if the contact within your CRM has filled out a form, the owner of that contact with your CRM can receive an email letting them know that their contact filled out a form. You also have the option to send submission notifications to users, to HubSpot users. So in this case, because I'm the one creating the form, it's linking to my email, but you can also choose to have different users receive a notification as well. You can choose the language of any error messages. So in this case, we'll stick with English. And then you have a few options here. So you can always create a contact for new email address, add a link to reset the form, pre-populate contact fields with known values. So remember, HubSpot's smart enough to recognize users that it already knows. And you can automatically create tickets. So you have a few different options here that you can play with depending on your needs. And finally, you have your style and preview options. So this is where you can set up the design aspects of the form. You have a few different options here. So you have a few different ways that the labels can look. This impacts the way that the boxes are. You can have sharp or default, whatever speaks to you. You also have a few different style options. So you can choose different font families that exist within HubSpot, or you can also input fonts that you already use with your own branding. You have options to change the coloring here of the label colors and all of the different pieces of text that you have within the form. If you have an inline thank you message, you can change the text or the color of the message as well as the font. And finally, down here, you can also change the color of the button. So if you want the button to be a different color, you can change that here. Finally, once you are done with your form, you've done everything, you've taken a look at what it looks like across your tablet, across mobile, and you're happy with the way that it looks, you can go ahead and click on update and then publish your form. From here, you have two options. If you are going to be embedding your form onto a HubSpot landing page or website page, you can actually add in the form when you are creating the page. All you have to do is drag and drop the form once you're in the landing page or website page creator. Or if you are not going to be hosting your form on a HubSpot or HubSpot landing page or website page, you can copy this embed code here. And then you can go ahead and paste that into your own website creator. So whatever you use to create your website, you can go ahead and copy this code and embed the form there. So you have two different options for publishing your form. And there you have it. That's how you can create a form inside of HubSpot. The last thing I want to show you is how you can track the success of your form. So if you go over to marketing, lead capture, and then forms, you'll be taken into this page here. And you can see some quick stats about your form. Of course, we don't have our form that we've just created. It's not on any pages, so we don't have any stats, but you will be able to see any metrics once the form is active and it's been, people have been submitting it. You can also click onto the form to see the performance of the form as well. So you'd have all your information here, and you'd have a quick chart about the submissions and any other relevant information that would be interesting to you. So that's how you're able to track the success of your form. If you go into Analyze, you can also see different pieces of information to help you understand how your form is doing. And finally, if you go over into Submissions, you would be able to see each user that has submitted your form, plus a link into their contact card. So if you wanted to learn more information about a user, you could click onto their contact card and you can see more information about them. And there you have it. Now you know all about how to create a form within HubSpot. If you want more information about how to create a pop-up form, go ahead and click on the video on the screen now. And if you want more information about inbound marketing or more HubSpot tutorials, be sure to subscribe to our channels. We'll see you in the next video.